And we're live. Hey, Bobby, I appreciate you coming on today, talk to me, and doing the live with me this week.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. How's the kid coming? I know you're about ready to, or your wife is about ready to give birth. We getting closer?
Any moment. So I make sure I don't leave my phone on silent. So yeah, we have no idea because we thought it was going to be by this weekend with the contractions she was having, and now here she is back to feeling normal. So I don't know.
Well, that was one of the reasons I didn't put this out there that we were going live at 11 o'clock, because just in case something happened, we
That
don't
would
want
be
to
my
leave.
luck.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we'll do it next week, so that way it will happen.
Yeah.
All right. So what our show today is about FOMO and the market. I read an article where they were talking about is the uptick and what's going on, a fear of missing out on, people not being able to get into a house, buying houses and all that kind of stuff. What do you think? Do you think that it is FOMO?
I think there's a small amount of FOMO, especially like now this year. So last year with everything being upended, there was a lot of uncertainty in people's lives, and I could see that happening. But now here we are, 19 months later,
Right.
and we're still seeing a really strong market, low inventory, a lot of buyers. So I think FOMO could be part of it. I think the biggest thing is that a lot of landlords saw an opportunity to raise the rents even more. And contrary to what most people might think, unless they've been renting, rents have gone up by, anywhere 20 to 25%. And I think that is what's been, helping the market with new, a plethora of new buyers.
Because they don't want to rent anymore. And then we've been doing a show telling them that they should be paying their own mortgage, not their landlord's mortgage. So I think we've been pushing out there, hey, it is the time. Affordability is at the all-time high right now to be able to own a home. You should be looking at it. But I want to get more into this in 1 second. I got to take a drink. So
yeah,
you keep talking.
Well, oh, there we go. I was going to say I lost my audio for a minute. Yes. It keeps cutting out. So one of the things that I've seen,
we can hear you, so it has to be maybe your headset's not plugged in all the way.
Oh, okay. I'll check that. But yeah, one of the things I've seen just from my property management background is there were a lot of young folks had good paying jobs, but they were of this mindset that owning a house was more of a liability than it was an asset. And so they've always thought like, well, I'll just keep renting. And there's some folks that have been at the apartments where I managed for 21 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So talk about, really being committed to renting. But even now those folks are calling me and saying, hey, I think we need to start looking at investment properties. So
what'd you do for the last 21 years? Do you know how much equity or your house could have been paid off by now?
I figured it out. Yeah. And it was a little over $200,000 that they had paid in rent
that they could have paid down on a mortgage.
Yeah.
Yeah. And especially for 21 years, you can imagine what the price of that house would have been.
Yeah. Well, and when
2000,
when rents were low, people got comfortable with the idea of, it's not squeezing me too much. I still have some fun money. But I think now people are seeing the average rent for a 2.2 is $1,650.
And that's in Modesto. That's not where we're at. That's not San Diego. That's not elsewhere. Those are way more than that. So
yeah, well, I'll say that's median right here. In Modesto of all places.
Right. Well, and I think this whole FOMO thing, that there was a little bit of bidding wars, right? The fear. So I would say it would come into play during that period of time where there was bidding wars. There are not as many bidding wars right now, right? There's some, but not anything like what we saw last summer and I mean in 2020, not 2021, but in the beginning of this year where there was a lot of bidding wars and I had to get it at all costs. A lot of people had cash for things to get it and then refinance it later. And so a lot of people are thinking this is going to go into a huge bust, right? Because of this FOMO that we possibly could be having right now. But if you look at all the numbers, and I'll let you in 1 second, let me just get this point across. Yeah. Fannie Mae put out an article that stated that they see mortgage rates and home prices will rise in 22, right?
Uh-huh.
So if the houses are still rising in 22, according to Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, how are we going to have this bubble? They're already projecting that we still don't have we have a shortage of homes. We still don't have enough. So I still think there's going to be this, even I think prior to this, the whole bidding wars, I think when people want a certain house and then somebody else writes an offer on that house they wanted, I think the whole, used to call it eBay effect, right? And now it's FOMO, the fear of missing out on that house makes them write higher offers and write certain things.
Yeah, well, and especially with buyers, like say like last fall, all the way through, probably about May of this year, if they had written a few offers already, they knew, hey, the last one I got outbid by 20,000, so this one I'm going to write it for 25,000 over, and so that happens for a few months in the market, and you have some buyers that got burnt on a few offers, and they just kind of pull the trigger and kind of go overboard on it.
All right, so let's do that. So that you don't have that fear of missing out, so that you're ready to go. What do you recommend when you talk to a client for the first time, even if it's somebody who owns a house or they're going to sell it and buy something else, and then a new, first time homebuyer? What do you recommend they do first?
Well, first of all, talk to a lender. Make sure you have your financing squared away. The biggest thing I would say is if you have kids, worry about the school district. You kind of want to buy the neighborhood, not necessarily the house, and be willing to, submit your best offer, but also be willing to walk away and, kind of rip the Band-Aid off and move on to the next one.
Because the one you end up with is the house that you're supposed to be in.
Yeah,
do
absolutely.
you feel that way? I mean, that's how I feel. So
yeah, well, I don't know if many people lived in different states and different places, but it's all what you make it. Right. So if you love your neighbors, you love the school district, you love everything about the home, then you're going to love where you live. So
right.
it's all what you make of it.
Yeah. And you're not going to love all your neighbors.
You try, right?
There's just no way. There's just no way. I look at like the property we bought, right? And we stand on our front, we look and we go, how many houses are in that same amount of acreage, right? There's just no way you can love that many neighbors. There's just so many neighbors in a neighborhood that you're not going to get along with everybody. So you do the best you can. The most important thing is, like you said, if you have school-age children, school system, right? And then go from there. What makes more sense to you? 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms, 2-story, single story after that. But the most important thing, if you have school kids, is with the school system and where they go.
Yeah. And when we bought the house we're currently in, loved the neighborhood, loved the house. Didn't, our son was barely a year old, our oldest at the time, right? So we didn't really think too much about the school system. We're like, oh, it looks like a decent area, it should be fine. Until it was time to get ready to enroll them, and we realized that there were 3 out of 10, and then you're like, oh man. Luckily, Modesto's pretty good with transfers.
Oh, so all right. So basically, your school system is not where you want to be, but you're there. Okay.
Yeah. So basically, the school where my son's at now, like if we were going to, purchase another house, we'd be looking in that area, even though it might not be like I like, old Craftsman's, old Tudors, but the district where he's at right now, mid-century modern, I can live with it. It's nice.
Yeah. It's not bad.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to remodel it anyway, but all right. So if you don't want to get caught up in this, you want to make sure you have your financing in place. And I'm going to add to that. So when you look at go to somebody, a lender or a mortgage broker, go to them, talk to them about, hey, can you tell me what I can qualify for? So they're going to run their credit. Then the good people are going to say, okay, well, you have a 680. Let's see what we can do to get you above that so you get a better rate. And then they work with that. So that because right now, the most important thing is FICO score still, right? And then after that is down payment and the rest of it. And you have to have the right FICO score because it's so much easier to get a loan done with the proper FICO score.
So what score do you recommend? I mean, obviously the higher the better, right?
Of course, yeah.
What's the
bottom? Well, I mean, if you're going to have a 680, if you're a 680 or below, you're going to go FHA, right? That's just price point wise. Fannie and Freddie have made it so it's so expensive if you try to do a conventional rate at 680. Not to say I can't do it, but it's not going to be the lowest rate you can possibly get. It's going to be a higher rate where FHA, VA in that same ballpark or USDA are going to be probably 3/4 of a point cheaper in an interest rate. So you would want a huge difference.
Yeah.
So that's why I still say we still want to look at and see what we can do to get your score up. And it's real easy. I mean, we do these what ifs, and it tells us, all right, if you want to score above this, they need to do this, this, and this. And I've worked with people who are in the 500s, and then because they've had time and now they're 100 points higher, which sounds like a lot, but for if you have a 580 and now you're 100 points higher, you're at 680. So you're still going to go FHA, right? But having all that in place is so that you don't get so stressed out that you have to have this one house. I have to have this. I mean, that's the big thing. But I do think the market right now is still going forward. People are going to still always have a FOMO. I mean, that's in everything, right? I mean, they have those things on your apps, on your phones, right? That what was that Clubhouse, right? Everybody was so worried about you. Probably like, what's Clubhouse?
Yeah, so I'm trying to catch up.
But the problem about Clubhouse was everybody would go there and listen to all this stuff going on. There were so many different rooms, and people started getting fear of missing out on not being in the room when they talked about stuff. That's the same thing. It's in our nature to have this fear of missing out on this property because this has got to be the house. This is the one for me. It's the one. You can't go into a transaction that way. You have to go in. Does this meet all the guidelines? Yes. All right, let's go for it and see what happens. If you don't get that house, there's a reason. It's not the house for you. The one you get is the house for you, and it will always be that way.
Oh, yeah. I remember. So when we bought the house we're currently in, that was back in 2011. And we wrote 4 different offers on houses, and we were convinced. And this is where I learned before I ever got in the business. I learned your offer doesn't get accepted. Forget about like a bad dream and just move on to the next one. And we're totally happy where we're at now.
Right. And that's how it works out. Yeah. But I do want to point out one more thing I just saw, and I was looking at this thing. It says, despite new single family home construction being in high demand, supply has been hindered by the low availability of materials, skilled labor. Those obstacles will continue next year, right? Mm-hmm. According to the latest forecast, total home sales will decline to 6.54 million in 2022 from 6.77 million sales in 2021. So what that means is there's going to be more competition for homes. It's not the fact that people aren't going to go and want to buy a house. It's going to mean that there is going to be less of a supply because they can't build them because of the demand is high. The supply that they need, all the wood, the this or that that's supposed to get here is in some container off the coast of in Long Beach waiting to be unloaded. And there's like 100 cargo ships down there.
It's crazy how many are stacking up. And I guess that's on the East Coast too.
Yeah. So all the products are off the coast. They can't get here. And this is going to take over a year to get done, fixed, the supply chain, because of what has happened and why it's broke. And so we're going to see less houses being built, even though they plan on them and they're working on them. There's less houses going to be built during this next year because of definitely for the next 6 months. And they saw housing starts was much lower than they thought they were going to be. And that is a negative on the market and everything. So going forward, I think there's still going to be competition, right? Yeah. There's going to be some occasional bidding wars on certain houses in certain neighborhoods. Absolutely. And you need to understand what you're getting into when you want to buy a house. But it's still, with the rates the way they are, the best time to buy any other time.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, like we were just discussing, so if there's still going to be a shortage of inventory in an average market over the last 10 years for the Central Valley, about 3 to 5 months of inventory was what was average. Right now we're, as of today, 0.8 months of inventory. So
it's not even a month.
Not even a month. So for buyers, just kind of explain that to them and saying, let them know, like, we're going to have to be patient. There is a lot of competition. We're not seeing the bidding wars as much for your average single family home, but rates, the money is, what am I trying to say? Financing is affordable,
right?
It's cheap money,
and the rates will go up a little bit more. Because I quoted somebody yesterday, and the guy's like, "Oh, I was hoping for a lower rate." I'm like, "Well, 30 days ago, it could have been a real lower rate." And that's the thing, is it's going to continue to go up for a short period of time because of the inflation that's going on because of the supply, demand, the whole supply side, the whole thing with the fact that everything's going up in pricing, inflation's going up. that's what's going to affect interest rates, because they're going to have to do stuff to control this. And the last time that they came, we had I talked about this last week on the radio, stagflation, basically during the 70s, it got into the 80s where interest rates got to 18%, right? I'm not saying we're getting anywhere close to that. Things will come into play way before that, but it's really hard to how they got out of that was Reagan actually lowered the marginal tax rate and stuff like that. Well, right now, our current administration, they're trying to raise the tax rate. So if you're going to raise a tax rate and you got this supply issue and you have this other stuff, guess what's going to happen? Inflation is going to get worse. So,
well, yeah, that's not including all the stimulus payments, everything else that's going out, and the bills are trying to pass.
I didn't want to get into that because it hasn't happened yet. I'm just dealing with what's right here and the way it's going. The more money they spend, the more taxes they got to do, and that's the issue we're going to have. So going forward, yes, we're going to still see some FOMO. We're going to see inflation. We're going to see interest rates rise going forward. Do we know how much that is? No. Are we talking 0.25%? Are we talking 0.5%? Are we talking 1%? We have no idea. That's the problem. Don't wait around. If you're thinking about buying a house, now is a great time. There is still inventory out there. Yes, it's only 0.8 of a month of inventory. That means it's a seller's market, right? Not a buyer's market. A buyer's market is an equal market is when you have 6 months of inventory. We're not going to probably see that for a very long time.
Yeah. So for buyers out there, I let them know, like, hey, we're not going to be asking for, seller closing credits, anything like that. We're not going to be asking for the washer and dryer. There's pretty much, you just write a clean offer. I often even tell my buyers, like, we'll just go ahead and say we're going to pay for the home inspection, and, we'll figure it out from there.
Right. And, I don't think it's as bad as what it was, where you couldn't get anything done, right? You couldn't get anything repaired. They were like, take it or leave it. I don't think that we're there, but
no.
Yeah.
Sorry. And I meant to say home warranty.
I thought you did. Oh, you said inspection.
I said home inspection. Yeah.
Yeah. Home warranty.
That
you said that, but that's exactly what I thought was home warranty. And what a home warranty is, basically, if something breaks, it's taken care of through the warranty of the home warranty. And it's what you want to do as a first-time buyer, or even as a second-time, third buyer. So you don't have to deal with things that break, and it makes it so much easier.
And one thing I always tell my clients, and I try to remind them, is, hey, when it comes up time for renewal, you should really think about renewing that home warranty, because every year it expires.
Yeah, I keep doing mine. And there was another article that says there is no sign of typical fall slowdown in home buying. So,
which is good. Is good.
Good as yes, but we need to. This is a time we're going to look back 20 years from now or 10 years from now and going, I cannot believe what we went through during that period of time. Mm-hmm. Right? It's what we look back as lenders of last year and go, I can't believe how many transactions we did, and we were able to get them done during a pandemic and people working from home. Right? The stuff that we learned how to do, and that's where we're at. So. Anyway, do you have anything? Sorry.
Well, no, it just still just looking back, just really surprised by which direction the market went last year. And it, for us agents, it added a lot of extra paperwork and scheduling and stuff like that. But I don't think anyone's complaining about, how strong the market was and is.
I don't think they did. And then the only other thing was, currently last year versus this year, within 2 weeks of listing a property that went into contract, they're at 46%. And this is nationwide, where it was 42 the year before. So basically everything is still very amazing market. Mm-hmm. The fact that we have lack of inventory, I think one of the things that's going to happen is certain states, when they're changing certain things and how they vote, like Texas with their abortion law and that kind of stuff, is going to stop some people from moving to Texas, and they're going to stay where they're at or find something else and understand that, hey, I'm just going to stay here. But remember, we did a show on moving to Texas, and I ran the numbers, and it basically, because of their property tax at 3% and other thing, you had to make over $400,000 a year in order for it to make sense for you to move there and save money. So that's the only other reason to move there, wasn't to save money, but to get just out of California in a totally different world. So
yeah, which being to Texas, went to the Dallas Fort Worth area, and I can say, as far as aesthetics, you would think you're still in California. A lot of the area, like the metroplexes and stuff, it all looks the same, right?
right.
It's newer construction, but the folks are really nice there. The weather's good. Besides the humidity,
Yeah, I was going there, and the heat, and the humidity, and all that other stuff, and the golf ball hail, the tornadoes, those little things.
Well, yeah. So I was there last year with the once in a century ice storm too, where it snowed the day my flight was leaving. But yeah,
Right.
other than
So
that,
other than those little things, but the market, let's just say it's a great, it's a very strong market. If you're looking to sell your property, it's a great time to sell. The problem you're going to run into is, what are you going to buy?
exactly. Finding a replacement property, but obviously you just write it contingent on finding replacement property. But yeah, so I've talked to a lot of folks, especially renters, and one thing I keep hearing them say is like, you know what, I'm just waiting until the bottom falls out. And I think that's just, something we have to keep, driving home, that this market isn't collapsing.
No,
It's strong.
No time soon anyway.
Yeah.
The only way it could really collapse is if they change laws to where we can't own property, or certain things certain things they change because our government changes how we are, or some, huge, something we have no idea. But as the way we're set up and what we're seeing, no, the market's going to be strong and just continue going forward the way it is. And that's a problem, because affordability is going to go down drastically as we keep going. If we keep going up to 18% nationwide, 20% in California, that's just, no one's going to be able to afford it. San Diego went up 28% year over year last month. How do you?
Yeah, I know. And that goes not only for home sales, but also rentals, right? You see a lot of roommate situations now, even for young folks that may have just, gotten out of college and got a good, well-paying job. They're making $80,000 a year, but realistically, to actually be able to save money, they're going to have a roommate.
Yeah, it's going to be like San Francisco, or in LA, where they have 5 different people living in a house to serve, because the rent's $5,000 a month, or some ridiculous thing for these people, and that's not what you want to do. So now is the time. Go buy your house.
Absolutely.
Stop waiting. It's very affordable still, even at these prices, but we don't know where it's. Because you have to look now. We don't know where that's going to be a year from now. You do know where it is right now, but not a year from now. So right now, we deal with what's here, focus on buying, and move forward. You're not going to lose out on the fact that you paid way too much for your house today. Right. It's going to keep continuing to go up. And I say that in jest, because in 2006 or 5, we kept saying, hey, the market is going to keep going. We have no idea. But we didn't look at, and what I keep bringing up is the birth rates, right? A lot of us didn't even think about that, or didn't understand that. They were building houses for people who were coming of age to start their homes and start their whole family units that aren't there. And the programs that we had, where they could buy 2 and 3 different homes, and housing tracts, made it feel like it was artificially inflated, that we needed those homes. And then once the whole thing fell apart, we realized there was all these extra homes that were vacant. People didn't need them. And then eventually they got absorbed, and people didn't build any houses for 10 years. And that's how they got absorbed. Now you fast forward, we're at the beginning of this 3rd year into this in population growth from birth rates. And that's our other issue. If we didn't have that, if we were stagnant on birth rates, then I'd say, okay, we might have an issue with possibly having a bubble, but no, not with what I see.
So what did they say, like the average birth rate was going to be per household?
No, it's just a matter of people coming of age right now, 31 years later, from 31 years ago, how many people are coming of age to be able to start their family unit, meaning getting married, going and buying their first house. The average age is 31. Yes, some people do it younger, some people do it older, but the average age is 31. If you go back 31 years, you can see this increase in where's my camera? And we're here on the 3rd year. We got 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th year of this expansion of birth rates, meaning that they've had more kids during that period of time, and they're coming of age to be able to buy homes. And and that's one of the issues that we're dealing with, that we haven't built enough homes for the current situation, we're 5 million short,
Mhm.
and then you add on all these additional people, and we're still not building homes, and then add on the fact that we can't get the materials to build the houses they're trying to build right now. It's just a perfect storm right now, and it's not going to be done anytime soon.
Yeah. That's why, for buyers, they have to be patient. They have to understand that they're probably going to write 4 or 5 offers before they get one that's accepted. So,
but make sure everything's in place. Make sure that everything that you've went through the whole process, you got pre-underwritten so that there's going to be no issue, and so that you can do, hey, we don't need the appraisal contingency if you're putting 20% down because they checked and there's a waiver. We don't need this. We don't need that. Now there's no waiver on FHA or VA. That's only on conventional. So.
Yeah, the other thing I always like to tell my buyers is, you really, even though some of these online lenders look, they have good advertising, right? Having a local lender, someone that, if you need to, you can meet with them in person, is absolutely critical, and someone that we've worked with and we know their work ethic and what they can actually produce.
Right. Because people will say, I can do this, but then they don't show up or they don't do what they say they can do. And then it doesn't matter because there's no one to get upset with them or not use them again, because they weren't going to use them anyway. They use them one time, where most of us local guys, we have a reputation that we want to protect.
Yeah. And so there was one time I had to deal with some specialty financing, and it was the purchase of a land, but it also allowed for purchase of a new built mobile home and everything like that. And so the only place they could find financing was a brokerage out of Texas, and that was such a nightmare. And I said, I hope I never have to do that again.
Well, they do. I know that people here locally that can do that now, so don't have to go to Texas.
Now I know that.
All right. Well, I appreciate you being here today and help me on this live. And good luck. Hopefully the next time I talk to you, you have another baby.
Yes, I'm hoping.
Yeah. All right, sir. Thanks for being here today. And I want to thank everybody who stopped in and watched this. And if you're watching afterwards, just let us know. And again, if you like what we do here, just follow us. Thanks, Robert.
Thank you, Ed. I appreciate it.
All right, sir.